that time again. It is Autism Awareness Day. And I felt like it was very important for me as a mom of a child that has autism to come on my channel and not only spread awareness but talk a little bit about my situation, and also talk about, I won't even call it a situation, that's such a weird word to use, but for lack of a better word, and also just talk about some precepts behind Amari. Amari is my 6-year-old son. I have a 6-year-old son that has autism, and I have a 5-year-old daughter. They're pretty close together. I found out I was pregnant with Ivana, which is my daughter, 6 months, while Amari was 6 months old. And I also have a bachelor's in psychology. I worked with children with autism for 3 years of my life. That was actually my career at some point before I switched to being a content creator, which for me is more of a passion that has now turned into my business. And I will always use my platform to talk about mental health. I've always talked about mental health, probably not in this capacity because now I've been through so much more mental health wise than I've ever been through in my life. So I'm talking about it more from a different standpoint than I used to. So Amari's pregnancy, and I've talked about this before, I actually talk about this almost every year, but I would not make you go and find the video. I will link it up below in case you want to like find out how I found out that he had autism and all that. But I will say like a little backstory just so that you're not like having to go to a different video. I found out pretty early because, like I said, because I've worked with children with autism, it was very easy for me to spot that my child was having a developmental delay. And when I started really early. I started with Fresh Start, I think that's what it's called. And basically it's a program for children that are below 2 or below 3, one of the two, don't quote me. And that was something that I found. Autism resources are very, very slim, and it's actually super hard to find resources unless you know somebody who knows somebody, or you go to schools. There was a period of time, especially when I was getting my daughter into school, that I would just go to elementary schools and like trying to find information. And I remember it was one particular elementary school that I went to that they were like, hey, there's this program called Child Find. And basically the program called Child Find is a program that helps you find resources, gives you access to figure out a diagnosis. Because what they don't tell you about having a child with autism is, even though you may know, and even though I have the qualifications to be like, hey, okay, maybe not the qualifications because I have a bachelor's, I don't have a master's, I'm not this is not my career anymore, but I do have mother's intuition, plus the fact that I've been around children with autism. They don't tell you that they still have to give you a diagnosis. So for almost a year, it took me a long time to get an official diagnosis, because it was the official diagnosis that actually led to me getting more services for him. This was like around when he was 3-4. When he was 3-4 years old, I finally was able to put him into ABA services. At first, I wanted him to go to elementary school with his sister, but I slowly figured out that that was not the best course of action, especially at the point where he was nonverbal and he wasn't really as functional as he is today. He wasn't responding to his name. He was just, he's always stimmed. Stimming is basically, the behaviors they do that regulate their nervous system. I think that having a child with autism is going to cause you to always be researching and always learning new things, which is what I do on an almost constant basis. Like quite recently, even though he's 6 and now he's going to elementary school, I had to start Googling, why is my child laughing at night? Because the child, Amari, just starting back to what I was saying previously, when he was 4-5 years old, he started going to this ABA center till today. I love that ABA center. The people were amazing. I made such great connections with the BAs, which is the behavioral analysts over there. And shout out to Early Autism Center Baltimore. Y'all really did that. I will say, even though I don't know if these two things correlate, it's because as a mom that has a child with autism, you have to conduct your own research. You can't really like go off of what other people tell you all the time. It's definitely a process of trying to think for yourself while doing your own research, while collecting information from other people that are around him. But I remember it was like literally the day before he had been given antibiotics because he had an ear infection, And it was like the day after that I came, and they were like, oh my god, he's like saying hi, he's like saying hi to everybody. So that was like where he started kind of having functional language, where he would like say hi, bye, he can count to 10 now. Like I said, it's a developmental delay, and also a neurological condition. So autism is not something that you can pray away. It's not something you can detox away. I know that everybody has very different views of autism. I feel like especially in the African Nigerian community, I'm Nigerian, so when I say African community, I'm trying to cover everybody in Africa, but I know everybody has different perspectives, so I'm just talking from being Nigerian. There's always a very huge stigma around it, and it's a stigma because it creates the illusion that somebody with autism isn't normal or isn't typical, so they either hide the child away or they don't talk to a lot of people about it, because at some point autism was not something that was very well known or well accepted by any community. Now there's so many more people that have children with autism. I know at least 5 to 6 people who have kids that have autism, boys, girls alike, and it's a little bit more common, so there's a little more resources. However, it has not been a very straightforward journey, which is why I try to openly talk about it as much as I can, regardless of the situation. Anytime that I feel like I can share, because I am my child's biggest advocate, and not only am I my child's biggest advocate, I'm also somebody who is able to talk about their experiences, which will lead other women to understand what could be happening with their child. Because I always come from the point of all other women who might not necessarily want to accept that something might be going on with their child that they cannot explain, because it's a very hard thing to accept, because we go into motherhood expecting certain things, and especially sometimes comparing ourselves to certain people. And when we have a child that is societally made to seem as though they are not okay, it can be very hard to not to accept that fact. But one thing that I will say is that the quicker you accept it, the easier it's going to be to get help. And for me, especially having a child with autism, your goals become different. For my daughter, my goals for her were reading, writing. Now she reads, now she writes, she even draws now, which is great. But for Amari, his goals are different. Not that I still don't have goals for him reading or writing, I do. However, in the level that he's in, I only see him as what I want him to do at this stage. And I try to take things day by day as much as I possibly can. A lot of people will ask me like, oh, what are your plans for when he goes to college? Or what are your plans for when he gets older? I think about it quite often. But I've been very fortunate enough to meet a lot of women in the world, or in communities, that talk about their older child with autism, either living by themselves or having a job after a while. And it's one of those things that gives me hope, because I know that the things that I do for him now as he's 6 years old is going to be the things that develop him when he gets older. I honestly will not sit here and say I have everything figured out, but I will say I've gotten to a point where I'm less worried. Every child with autism is different. That's why they call it a spectrum. It's not something that I will say has made my motherhood the easiest ever, because with Amari in particular, every child has their own behaviors or things that are different. There are some children who are more aggressive. There was a time where Amari used to headbutt, and I thank God every day that he has stopped that. However, the big thing with Amari is elopement. And when I say elopement, it means that Amari will, at any chance, just bolt, just run somewhere. And it has caused a lot of stress for me for a very long time, because I have to be continuously on high alert, no matter what. That's actually one of the reasons why I try not to leave him with a lot of people, except people who I really trust, because I know how he is, but sometimes other people might not know how he is. And elopement does not necessarily only mean that he's running away when we're in grocery stores. It means that if he's at home and I can't leave the door open. Not that anybody really leaves the door open when they have kids, but it's one of those things where I always have to make sure the doors are locked, because I think that's the most stressful thing about him. Aside from that, he's a very happy child. He's very, very affectionate. I love that about him. He's always giving me hugs. When he wants to, he'll give me kisses, because the thing about children with autism is they will not give you affection when you want it. They will give you affection when they want it. And honestly, he's my pride and joy. I have no shame whatsoever about having a child with autism. I've actually mentioned that I had a feeling that was going to be something that my life prepared me for it. So like it makes sense for me. And I feel like God really does prepare people for it, because I do think that is a very special gift for you to have a child that is defying odds and defying the norm, because you have a different way you view the world. Amari is so just fun, and he's still a very picky eater. That's one thing about him. He will only eat chips sometimes. He loves his pizza. They have their foods that become comfort foods. He stims a lot. Again, I've talked about stimming being like a neurological thing. A lot of people who don't understand autism usually stop their children from stimming, but it's always good to keep your child stimming, because it actually helps them with processing. A lot of things that I know about my child now are stuff that I've either researched or learned along the way, and I'm still learning. I follow quite a lot of mothers who also have children with autism. I'm going to link some of them down below or on the screen, that have helped me immensely, that they don't even know they're helping me, but by sharing, like they have older kids. I just recently followed Dancing with Autism Mom. She also has like 2 neurodivergent children, and watching her take care of her children and watching older children go on to just live lives with their parents is just such a blessing. If you're a mom out there with a child with autism, don't think of this as like a death sentence for you, or like a thing that is making you feel some type of way, because our children are special. We don't just say they're special just to make it up and be like, oh, they're special. No, our children are special. They allow you to see the world in a different way. Do not fight against it, lean into it, because it will help you as a parent to understand empathy and being able to see humans differently as well, because they do not live in the same world that we live in. However, that doesn't mean that they're different or less than. Because they're different does not mean that they are not very smart and they can't go on to college. A lot of them actually have a lot of different skills, that are, where one thing is deficient, another thing prospers. And I just really hope that by sharing about autism and being a voice and an advocate for this, that it helps other mothers going through the situations, especially in the African community. And I keep saying that because I know it's very hard. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt that comes with it. I am very, very blessed to have 2 children, because I know how lonely I might have felt if I only had one, and what I might have been thinking in my head if I only had one child that had autism. I feel like it would have really reflected my inadequacies as a mom, because a lot of moms, we do that. We turn things into a self thing. But I truly believe that God picks special parents to be mothers of children with autism. I feel like they have spiritual gifts that are not really talked about enough. I feel like they become our protectors without knowing. He interacts so well with his sister. I'm also very happy about that. Sometimes his sister bullies him, okay, and he bullies her back. And when they play together, honestly, he's not playing with her. He's stimming, meaning like he's just running around and stimming, and she's chasing him. But I'm grateful for it, because it gives them both time together and time to just have siblings. And I actually feel like having a sibling has increased his social skills. So it's just something that I will always get a chance, or I will always take the chance to talk about anytime that I can. If you're a mother that has a child with autism or children with autism, I am just praying for you that things will be easier for you to accept, but that it will also give you some sense of relief seeing somebody openly talk about it and knowing that you're not alone, because that is really what my goal is all the time. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave me any comments down below. If you're a mother with a child with autism, I would love to hear your story, especially if you have an older child, just so that I can understand how to make plans for Amari, or any resources that you can share, because it's always important for us to share resources with each other, because like I said, there's not a lot of resources out there. So we need to create as much community as we can. I used to have an Instagram group that I still have, but sometimes I'm not able to post in it as much. I can't really do everything. I have YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and I run it all myself. I edit myself, so sometimes it's really hard for me to keep up those things, but I'm hoping that by doing this video, it will help to have a video that you guys can come back and watch and like talk about it. So that is all my yapping. Happy Autism Awareness Day, and I'll see you in my next video next week Tuesday.